In this WrestleTalk news, yet another AEW Backstage fight, everything we know so far about the fight, the latest on Saraya being cleared, and Ollie reviews last night's episode of AEW Dynamite. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
Good grief. Here we go again, I suppose. Less than a month since the now infamous all-out backstage altercation between the Elite and CM Punk, it is now being reported that yet another behind-the-scenes bust-up has occurred. As was first reported by TMZ during last night's AEW Dynamite in Washington, D.C., Andrade El Idolo and Sammy Guevara were involved in an altercation that reportedly led to Andrade being sent home from the event. According to TMZ's sources, words were exchanged and then things turned physical. Sammy allegedly pushed Andrade and punches were thrown. According to our sources, it's unclear if anyone was hit. Now, as for the events that led to the altercation, things are unsurprisingly unclear at this point. Of course, the well-documented Twitter back and forth prior to Dynamite between Guevara and Andrade seemed to have planted the seeds, with Andrade ominously tweeting, "See you on Wednesday," at the end of the very public spat. However, as for who started the confrontation, similar to the Elite and Punk situation, there are conflicting reports. According to TMZ, it was Guevara who first pushed Andrade. However, according to Wrestling Observer's Brian Alvarez, there are serious doubts regarding TMZ's version of the story. He said, "There are definitely two totally different stories about what happened tonight, though many in AEW have disputed the TMZ version and noted that if it was true, it's very hard to believe Sammy would have worked the main event while Andrade was sent home." Despite Andrade being sent home following the altercation, Guevara actually ended up playing a prominent role on the show, even going on to secure the pin in the main event tag team match between himself and Chris Jericho against Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson. This decision has drawn the ire of many fans, and according to DAZN's Steven Muehlhausen, the fact that only Andrade was sent home from the event did not go down well with many backstage at Dynamite. Also, according to Fightful Select, this alleged altercation has been seen as disrespectful to the veterans in the company, such as Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and Bryan Danielson, who have worked hard to get everyone on the same page following the all-out drama. However, this newest setback may have already wiped all of that hard work clean in an instant. As for Andrade, his immediate future seems unclear, with his much advertised career versus mask match with Dark Order's 10 for Rampage being cancelled by Tony Khan on Twitter ahead of Dynamite last night. It's unclear why the match was pulled exactly. However, with Andrade's recent not-so-secret social media activity suggesting he is looking for a way out of the company, Khan perhaps made the decision in response to that and the drama between Andrade and Guevara. The match has now instead been replaced by a trios championship match between Death Triangle and the Dark Order in celebration of the anniversary of Brody Lee's final match on Rampage. This is also the second time Guevara has been in the news recently following his altercation with Eddie Kingston in August, which led to Kingston serving a short suspension afterwards. If this whole situation is proven to be true, then it is yet another horror show for AEW and Tony Khan, who just cannot seem to keep things in check behind the scenes at present. This is a breaking story, however, and as was the case with Brawl Out, there will surely be more and more updates and further details as the days pass. Of course, we will be on hand when this happens, so make sure to stay tuned to WrestleTalk.com for any and all updates as they are being reported.
One of British wrestling's most historic promotions of all time returns after over a decade's absence for a huge night of action. Amassing stars from all over the globe, One Pro Wrestling presents a new twist of fate, exclusively on Fight TV, coming this Thursday, October 6th at 9 p.m. GMT and 4 p.m. EST. The show features an incredible selection of matches, some for the first time ever, including Rob Van Dam vs Mark Haskins, Christopher Daniels taking on Cara Noir, AEW's Jamie Hayter battling Session Moth, Robbie X going against Ace Austin, plus see in-ring appearances from Colt Cabana, Mickie James, Nick Aldis, Doug Williams, D'Lo Brown, and too many more stars to mention. Coming from the sold-out Doncaster Dome, 1PW's return has already been the talk of social media, and now you'll be able to see exactly what the buzz is all about. From top-level in-ring action to possibly the craziest balcony dive ever on the UK scene. Witness independent wrestling history get made all over again this Thursday. Watch 1PW, a new twist of fate for only $14.99 this Thursday on Fight TV. Check out the link in the video description for more details.
This is a new twist of fate!
It's Thursday, you know what that means. Happy birthday to AU. Happy birthday to AU. Happy birthday to AU. Happy birthday to AU. Now it's time to do what any self-respecting 3-year-old would do at their own birthday party. Throw a tantrum and shit yourself. It's time for my review of AEW Dynamite's 3rd anniversary episode in about 5 minutes. The show opened on MJF versus Wheeler Yuta, not just paying off their feud from the last several weeks, not just being MJF's first match in 129 days, but also providing a chapter in the Max versus Jon Moxley feud without them interacting, Yuta being Mox's faction mate. I really enjoyed the long-term focus on their overarching story, which also smartly weaves in the possibility of Hangman Page being champion later in the show. They had a great 15-minute match here with a much hotter crowd than AEW shows have had recently, actually reacting to the wrestling for a change. The Steamboat Macho Man style exchange of near falls in the final third got the crowd going wild. MJF won, as he should have, but far less predictable was the post-match angle. Max almost did something nice. He almost shook Yuta's hand. This wasn't the heel bait and switch of I'm going to tease being honourable but then his cronies attack Yuta. The firm jumping Wheeler genuinely seemed to upset MJF. I've read some people not that into this, wanting Max to be a fully heel persona. For me, this is the exact kind of character depth that makes MJF such an interesting act. You can't figure out what he's going to do next. He's obnoxious, he gets the easiest heel heat, and he's very good at that. But then, all of a sudden, he's crying like a baby in CM Punk's arms, or he's genuinely thinking about showing Yuta, a long-term rival, some respect. That intermittent emotional vulnerability is what will make Max's character endure in the long run. Jay Lethal and Darby Allin weirdly kind of did the exact same thing in the very next match. Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh came out onto the entrance ramp, even though Lethal had told them not to, which led to Darby getting the technical winning pin. Afterwards, Jay shook Darby's hand to Dutt's annoyance. Unfortunately, some things are just too mid-card for me to care, unless there's some serious meat slapping involved. Wardlow then took on a returning Brian Cage in a really fun hoss fight. It's a testament to Cage how over he was here despite no build and not being on Dynamite for over a year. It brought the best out of Wardlow too, with an impressive top rope moonsault, fiery headbutt exchange, and a powerbomb symphony to win. Cage's new faction, the Embassy, jumped Wardlow, which brought out Samoa Joe and FTR to even the odds. Hey, Tony did remember they worked for him. This sets up FTR against Gates of Agony for the ROH title belts, aka yet another storyline for them which doesn't involve the AEW World Tag Team titles. Britt Baker then announced Saraya will not be wrestling in AEW because she's not been medically cleared to compete. Because a heel is saying that, I'd be inclined to believe Saraya actually is wrestling. But also, considering how poorly her return has been handled so far, maybe she just really isn't actually medically cleared. Thankfully, while far from perfect, this week was a vast improvement in showcasing the women's division. Yes, it was all the AEW women standing in a row with a 6-person tag with a load of people at ringside, but sometimes you have to take a step back to go a little bit forward. Jamie Hayter continues to be mega over. Deeb is a joy to watch, and Nightingale has excellent charisma. She got the win to set up another shot at Jade's TBS title. But also, Saraya here! Thanks for your support on Patreon, Mad Mac the Meat Father, and have an argy-bargy margy pargy. You too can get your own shout out by going to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Never mind the white rabbit, we've got a white elephant right here. Britt said Saraya won't wrestle, but then Saraya did get physical in the post-match throwing punches, but she also never took a bump. Can't figure out what they're going for here. Saraya is either not medically cleared to compete, ever, in which case, don't tease she'll get physical, or there's a strong possibility that she will be, in which case, hold off on her getting physical until she can actually go for the major shock surprise. On a show always full of great wrestling, to really stand out now, you've got to have fun sports entertainment style promo segments, and that's exactly why I believe the Acclaimed have rocketed to the top of their division. And also because Tony won't do anything with FTR. Their National Scissoring Day segment was sports entertainment at its best. A very weird casserole of things you wouldn't put together but somehow taste delicious, of explicit hand gestures, offensive raps, and that guy who likes butts from D-Generation X. Not content with the easy humour, the Acclaimed admirably inserted a rather wonderful message of political unity. Yeah, the segment about scissoring with a guy called Daddy Ass. They heartwarmingly talked about uniting a divided America. They got the whole crowd to scissor each other. Typically, it's all used to cut things apart. Swerve interrupted for the heel heat, bringing out a Rock. Not the Rock, because it beats scissors, and setting up a match against Daddy Ass next week. Then Mark Sterling came out for the sole reason of the babyfaces to hit their moves on him. I loved this, and it was especially great to hear Bowens cut such a long promo. As it turns out, he's excellent at that too. Hangman Page beat Rush in a hard-hitting 10-minute match. Mox cut a great face-in-his-face promo afterwards, setting up their fight in 2 weeks' time. Luchasaurus squashed Fuego del Sol, but Jungle Boy chased him off with a chair before he could inflict further harm. I feel like we've missed the most crucial part of this story. Why has Luchasaurus sided with Christian? And the main event had Chris Jericho in yet again because the guy is killing it right now, tagging with Sammy Guevara against the Dragon Dans, Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson. The theory here is sound. Use established main eventers like Jericho and Danielson to get over younger stars like Sammy and Garcia. Unfortunately, I don't think the Garcia storyline has properly clicked or been well told. The crowd reaction should have been nuclear here for him fighting Jericho for the first time, and Sammy, as incredible as he is, has developed proper go-away X-Pac heat. Garcia seemed full on Combat Club though, locking in their trademark spots with Danielson like dual submissions and elbows, but Jericho hit him with the ROH title for Sammy to get the win. Yeah, that Sammy, the Sammy that have reportedly just been involved in a backstage bust-up. Storyline-wise though, I loved the slight remorse showed by Jericho that he did that at the end, and the use of that ROH World Championship lays the foundations for it being on the line in him versus Garcia in the future. What did you think of AEW Dynamite? Let me know in the comments. This was a decent show again with good matches and steady storyline development. The women's segment was a huge improvement, but I feel this episode also lacked the highs of Bandido and the ROH war from the previous week. Also, there was no Bray Wyatt. Where is that guy? Stop teasing him so much. This episode is 75%. Speaking of Bray Wyatt, will he show up at Extreme Rules? Watch our predictions to find out.
Right, so, just, do you think Bray Wyatt will show up on Extreme Rules?
Now, this is going to be one of those things where WWE have not said that he is going to be on this show. They haven't even said Bray, they've not said the White Rabbit will be on the show this week. But it's been heavily implied through the QR code videos that